Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my man Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And it is Monday in the NBA with a nice little 8-game slate to kick off your work week here. In this one, we're taking a look at a couple of Eastern Conference foes. The Raptors are playing host to the wicked hot Boston Celtics. Also got another game video and our player props up for you, so make sure to like and subscribe. Continue to follow along with us. Also want you to head to thelines.com. We've got all of our great written content up there. Nate puts all the picks up there as well. And we have our odds finder tool within all those articles. You can go ahead and make sure you're getting the best juice back from all the books that you may be using here to get these NBA bets in. Nate, let's go ahead and get into this 8-game slate and then talk C's and Raps.
Yeah, this first game, the Clippers are -4 now at Charlotte. I was telling you last night, -2, hit that right away. Clips starting to get a little healthier and got to trust them to beat basically a tanking team. Then we got the Bucks -10 at Orlando. Thunder +6 at the Hawks. The Heat are now +1 at Memphis. Memphis on a back-to-back. We're going to talk about that game in the other video. Sixers -7.5 at the Rockets. The Suns +3 at the Mavs. Always a fierce game when those two meet. And then the Warriors are on a back-to-back as well with the Pacers, who are +11 in Golden State. Total of 236 there. So the Celtics +1 now at Toronto. It was -1, I think, when it opened, but it's going to hover right around there at even money. Basically, it's a test. Do you believe the Celtics can just continue to win on back-to-backs, can continue to win in all circumstances? And I'm going to say, like, if you just want to close your eyes and click Celtics the rest of the way, you're probably going to win money. And if you bet on this one and it goes awry, like, stick with it. Like, trust the process. You're betting on the superior team. Look, they've won 15 of their last 17, of course. It's like, well, do they cover? Yeah, they've covered in 11 of their last 12 wins, and there's no spread to cover here. It's just beating the Raptors. And the Raptors have some real deficiencies, man. I mean, if they're not scoring off turnovers, if they're not scoring in the open floor, they suck. They're 30th in half-court offense efficiency, right? And they make up for it with offensive rebounding and by forcing turnovers, like I said. But the Celtics are the 7th best in both those categories in terms of limiting their own turnovers and allowing O-reaps. And they're allowing the 5th fewest fast break points as well. And, I mean, they have Toronto's number. It's like Toronto, how do they usually beat teams? Again, swarming them, forcing turnovers because they have this superior size on the wing. Well, you don't have that against Boston. They've lost 6 of their last 7 against Boston. The one time they beat them, yes, it was a back-to-back, but yes, Boston sat JT, Jalen, and Al Horford along with they had nobody out there basically, and they still only lost by 3. So they covered, I think, in that loss. You look at the wins. Boston's offense is lighting up this pretty formidable Toronto defense. 118 points per game, hitting 14 threes at 40%. That's their MO on the season. They shoot 40% home, road, from 3, hit about 17 threes per game, get great looks against anybody except the Miami Heat, who were able to kind of mix it up in that second matchup. We were just one game early on the hot Heat take there that Miami was going to cover, maybe win, because Jimmy played in that second one, as we kind of looked at. But, I mean, Nick Nurse is a great coach. Eric Spoelstra is a great coach. They both can mix it up like that with their defensive schemes. But I just don't think that Boston's going to be as taken aback the way they were when Miami would switch from zone to man, when they would blitz them and go 3-quarter court, like throwing the kitchen sink. And that was all just to get into a close game with Boston. And Boston a lot better in the clutch than Toronto. You look at Toronto's numbers at home, and they are impressive, 9-2 straight up. But when they're dogs, they're 3-8 overall, regardless of venue, versus 9-3 as favorites. They're 1-4 in division games in this really tough division right now. I just look at how Boston's been able to carve them up. 55 assists in their last 2 wins against Toronto, shot 53% from the floor. Again, those were both in Boston. They haven't really played at Toronto in a real situation in years now, because their 2021 game, no fans in the arena still, or it was in Florida. I don't even know which one, but it wasn't a real home game for Toronto. And the atmosphere will be there. I just don't think Toronto has the offensive firepower to match this team right now, as long as, you don't get Tatum resting or anything. But there is a chance Marcus Smart plays after sitting on Sunday with like a hip contusion. So maybe you get one guy sit, but you get Marcus Smart back in there, and that Celtics wing and backcourt is just so deep right now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, especially because Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon are both playing so well for this team. Like, they're just a never-ending bench of quality, quality wings and guys who play really well with the ball in their hands and without it. Like, this is a wonderful roster. Brad Stevens, really good coach. Really, really good GM, and that's really what's being the difference is for them this season, obviously. And then obviously, Tatum and Brown, I would say stepped it up a notch. I do want both of them to play for me to feel good about this game. I don't really want to watch either of them sit out, to be honest with you. I think in the as far as the Raptors are concerned, they're missing a few guys, and honestly, some guys that would probably help them on the wing as well, with some size in terms of Juancho and Otto Porter. Precious Achua could take it or leave it, as obviously Rob Will's still not playing. But either way, I think for Boston, what's interesting is that they're doing. They miss Rob Will, but they still are really good on defense in the key areas that they need to be able to hang with the Raptors. When you look at, as you said, the Raptors, number one in points off turnovers, number one in fast break points. They're also number one in second chance points. So their set offense is bad. That's not how they score. As you mentioned, it's the worst in the league. And the reason that they're 8-3 at home this season is because of the fact that they're number one in those key categories right there, all key transition points categories, or second chance points, where it doesn't take any offensive scheme to grab an offensive rebound, kick it out to a wide open three, and get that ball up for second chance points. Boston, like we said, though, that everything you would expect them. Look, they're not the same defensive team that they will be when Rob Williams comes back, in part because they need to, they know that they can't just sell out on 3-pointers. They can't just sell out on their guy. They don't have a rim protector. If they don't want to give up a layup, they kind of have to stay home and keep their feet on the ground rather than jump up and contest too many shots or go for steals and things of that nature. So their defense isn't quite as swarming as it was last season, because they don't have that protection behind them. As soon as that guy's back in the lineup, that defense is going to take it up a notch for sure. Either way, the defense right now is doing what it can without the same height and rim protection as Rob Will, by getting, limiting points off of turnovers, controlling what they can, limiting you getting points on offensive rebounds and fast break points. So if they can just get back on defense, they say, then they'll be fine. And that's been the case this season. They're winning games because while they're getting out on transition and they're getting points off of turnovers, or just really keeping guys from being able to get back, keeping the defense from being able to get back behind their transition offense, as they have so many transition points this season. Like I said, they're controlling what they can without a true center in there at any point. Sans Papa Al, who's 4-5, whatever you have you. So I think all that said, like it's Toronto at home. It's a different team. The fact that they do have Siakam back makes you feel pretty good about it. If the Celtics have to lose at some point, and it's probably going to be on this road trip, as this is an absolutely ridiculous gauntlet of games that they have. They went Nets last night. They got the Raptors tonight. Then the 2 nights from now, they have the Suns. 3 nights, the Warriors. 2 nights later, the Clips, and then a back-to-back Lakers after that Clippers game. And by the way, the Lakers are good now. I don't know if you're paying attention, or at least they're better than the bottom half of the league. Let's put it that way. Once you beat the Wizards on the road, you're now like at least the 14th best team in the league, because the Wizards are perpetually the 15th best team in the league. So at any rate, they're good now. This is going to be a ridiculous road trip for them. And if you look at how they did, how they're doing on the road this season, they're playing just as well, to be honest, as they are at home. They're pretty much just a consistent team. When they're at the Garden, look, they're pretty much unbeatable right now. Is it still called the Garden? Whatever it is, the TD said, yeah. When they're there, when they're in Boston, they're pretty much unbeatable right now. On the road, they're still a better than 500 team and beating teams by an average of about 5 points a game in that stretch. So I think that this is going to be the test for them, as we say. This is the beginning of the test for them. I don't love picking against the Raptors at home, but right now, like you got to keep going with what's working. In the stats that I'm looking at that matter to me is say that Boston's going to be able to limit what Toronto does, and nobody has come close to limiting what Boston does yet this season. So why would I start picking against their offense right now?
They come close, but they just grinded out a win anyway against the Nets, right? Forced KD into 7 turnovers. He's the hottest mid-range player on the planet right now. And what do you got, Raptors? You got Pascal Siakam, who's, coming back, but like we said, not scoring in the half court. You talked about that Celtics defense ramping up when Rob Will gets back, but they've actually just been great lately, regardless. In their last 6, 110 points per game. Last 3, limiting these key areas that we talk about. 10 fast break points. That's 5th best. Again, 7th worst assist to turnover ratio for opponents. Fewest free throws per game allowed. And on the road in general, number 3 in 2-point percentage. So they're going to try to make the Raptors beat them from deep. I don't know. When you look at the total, there's a lot of conflicting numbers to look at here. Yeah. First and foremost, that Toronto plays at a pace 4 possessions slower at home. That the Celtics do go under at home, but the back-to-back numbers are interesting here. Boston's 4-0 to the back-to-back this year, also 4-0 to the over, and they lost 4 of their last 5 back-to-backs last year, but those all 5 went over, including this one with Toronto, which totaled 240. So, with the Celtics right now, I talk about clicking their money line or their spread every time. If you also just click the over every time, I think you're probably in pretty good shape the way they've been shooting. But I'm not as sure because just like we're scared of Toronto at home, also scared of this game getting bogged down in the weeds the way Toronto can't score that much. And they can maybe muck it up the same way Miami did. But by the numbers, they have no rim protection either. You talk about Rob Will out. They are giving up the 4th most paint points right now. Boston. I'm sorry, in their last 3 games. Yeah. Since getting Siakam back, they got that win over Cleveland, and then in their last 3, the defense has been rough. The offense has also been rough. They're only hitting 9 threes at 30%. But they're 22nd in 3-point defense, 22nd in assisted field goal, and those are the 2 key things for the Boston Celtics, right? Is they're going to move the ball and they're going to get their shots. And so, that's what we lean on here is just the Celtics being a little bit better than you. And I'm glad you mentioned that schedule because they can't afford to just say like, all right, we'll lose this one and then we're home against Orlando. You're not home against Orlando for 5 more games, and we saw the Celtics and Tatum go on this West Coast road trip a couple of years ago and just be like, whatever, we're just going to win every game. We're going to go hard every game. I think that was the case last season when they were red hot too. I don't think they're going to be taking nights off here, so I trust them on a back-to-back.
Yeah, I don't think they will either. There's no. How do you find a trap game when it's Nets at Raptors, Suns, Dubs, Clips, Lakers? There's no trap game in there. Maybe the Clippers. This would be it. But it's an Eastern Conference foe, and it's a game that it's a little bit closer to home for them as well. They're not traveling quite as far as when they're about to go to Phoenix in between the 5th and the 7th of this month. So I think the other thing you mentioned though, they're limiting those transition points in their last 3 because they're playing the Heat twice and the Nets once, and neither of those teams are looking to fast break, so they're going to need to get back, but they've done that all season, so I'm not going to start getting worried about it now just because the Raptors are that good at it. I'm totally fine with it. That said, to add to the point, I don't know if Toronto can really just keep up with this team. When you start talking about the total and 227.5, I think that this you lean, like you said, you go over in a Celtics game right now before you go under, because even if the Celtics are playing pretty good defense, they're putting up 110 points tonight, I think we can feel pretty confident about that. 115 gets you there. So if they're winning this game, right, and it takes 115 to win it tonight, the way that they're playing offense, I think the Raptors can come along. I do, I'm not worried about the Celtics' ability to guard in transition. As I said, they're a top 5, top 10 defense in transition this season in all those key categories. But it's the Raptors at home, and they might come out firing a little bit better on offense, as their numbers do tend to be a little bit better at home in all their key categories for them. And we talk about transition offense and the like, but also some of their shooting numbers as well, a bit better at home than on the road, which leads you to at least hope for a bit more offense here. Their defense is also better at home as well, but this is one for the Celtics. I'm going to keep betting in this situation until we see something to prove otherwise. maybe we'll talk differently about it when they take on the Suns. And there's got to be another season loss in here somewhere, but we'll let you know when we feeling that. So at any rate, that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. We will be back with you each and every weekday. So until we see you next, happy betting.